so much for sharing all the information we're putting out at Operation Free Dalton. It's crucial we get this out as soon as possible, as far and wide as we can, because we have to hold these officials accountable for the weird they do. And the discrepancy between bond amounts given to people with multiple priors, murders, it's unspeakable, some of the things these people have done, versus Dalton's unprecedented $1.25 million bond. And the DA, Robert Nash, wanted to give him no bond. But this same DA gave individuals who committed multiple murders, priors, bonds less than $100,000. A lot of people think this is attacking white people, freedom of speech, and then, kid gloves for the crimes black people commit. But what we have to understand is, in black community, listen when I say,
you simply just can't make this stuff up. So this is crazy because Chud the Builder is trying to get out of jail. He's desperately trying to get out of jail. But the people that he has assisting him with getting out of jail are also W supremacists. And this is not going to work. Remember, he's locked up for powering a black man in the stomach after initiating the crime. He walked up to the guy and was calling the guy all kinds of racial slurs. When the guy said, "I have PTSD, get away from me," Chud escalated it, and it got real bad, right? So you have this guy on here, Operation Free Dalton, and he's telling Chud supporters that they need to go after Commissioner David W. Shelton, because this Commissioner David W. Shelton, he put out this he texted this thing from Clarksville, Tennessee, on racism, saying it was pure evil and racism was vile, right? And they're upset with this commissioner, saying that they're not going to have a fair chance of him getting bail and coming out to society, right? So let's look at what David W. Shelton had posted. Racism is evil. Racism is vile. Racism is utterly stupid. The reason racism is so astronomically stupid is simple. As Illinois Governor Pritzker said a few years ago, you can always tell an idiot by their cruelty. And cruelty is exactly what a coward like Dalton Etherly employs in his frequent attempts to incite violence by saying the most idiotic and racist things towards things possible around black people. And yesterday, a fight broke out between the stupidest man in Clarksville and another man. Just outside the courthouse, Etherly shot the man during the scuffle and ended up shooting himself in the process. The victim was life flighted and is still fighting for his life. Last report I heard is that he is stable, and I pray he recovers. Etherly, though, now sits in the Montgomery County Jail with multiple felony charges. Stupid, idiotic, racist. And none of this should have gotten to this point. Frankly, I am convinced we have been witnessing a mental collapse over the last few months as Etherly grew more bold with each passing day, and even leading to charges being filed in Nashville. But this is what racism does. It's a cancer, right? It eats away at the soul of a human to the point that they will do real harm to their fellow man just because they're different. It is as evil as it is as vile. And it's up to those of us that are white to say so. We have to stop codding the notion that some people are inferior based on their melanin count. It's a lie. It's a damn lie. And it's always been and always will be a lie. So you have a W coming out telling the truth, and a lot of people are upset. Another reality about racism is that it is very much still a factor in our nation. We must recognize it and do all we can to end it. We see in politics not so cleverly disguised over the years as drug and crime laws, right? So this is that commissioner. He's speaking on this now. Ethanly Chud is in serious trouble because his excuse it's leaking water, it's leaking oil, man. He's not going to be able to get out. But now you have lawyers that are on the internet. They're talking about this and they're discussing his defense and the way he would defend himself.
With the Montgomery County charges, he's facing up to 60 years behind bars just for the attempted homicide alone. Now, the other 3 charges can stack up, and those can add to potentially decades behind bars. The real thing that will get him is the mandatory minimum. If Chud the Builder is hit with all of those charges, he will absolutely be locked away for a very, very long time. Now, let's look at the self-defense analysis, because this is the real debate. The real debate is, was this self-defense? Now, Tennessee has a stand your ground law. So in Tennessee, it requires 4 things: lawful presence, lawful conduct, reasonable belief of the need for force, proportionality, and no initial aggressor. So you have to have all of those things. And this is an affirmative defense. So if the prosecutors can actually knock out one of these elements, just one of these things, he's guilty, because you have to admit that you did it. You have to say, I shot the guy, but here's my defense. So if they knock out your defense, all you're left with is, I shot the guy. That's literally all that's left of that analysis. So when you actually apply that to Chud's case, there's some arguments pro and against Chud. First of all, he's in a public place where he had the right to be. So the lawful presence, lawful conduct, we're going to assume that it doesn't appear at the time Chud was committing a crime, although we'll have to see how the ultimate facts play out and all the reports happen. We also have claims from Chud's side that Joshua Fox actually punched first. And if you combine this with, once again, reports of him being the stalker, of him following him, etc., then he might say, okay, this is the person who provoked this, the person who started this. But that's not where the analysis ends. And you do have to look at the other elements, such as proportionality and reasonableness.
And see, what this attorney is alluding to is Chud is done. Because even in the mandatory minimum, he would have to admit that he did it. And him admitting that he did it, right? It would also show that he was actually the initiator in the crime. He initiated it. He pursued it. So now his self-defense goes out of the door. Goes out the door, right? Because you did it. And if the guy hit you first, the guy didn't possess any weapon or firearm. There was only him. There wasn't multiple people. So now you were supposed to meet his energy with the energy. You pulled out a firearm and almost took this man's life. So you're pretty much fried. So any of your supporters that was looking for this attorney to actually support you or back his self-defense claims, you got a rude awakening, because he doesn't have one. Plus, he was the bigger individual, right? And the aggressor and the pursuant, right? When the guy was trying to de-escalate and say, hey, do not do this. It's on video. I have PTSD. Please don't do this. And you still kept pursuing until the guy felt threatened because you was in his personal space, and then all hell broke loose. But this attorney wasn't finished.
I think this is where you might have some trouble. Now, another factor is, to argue the anti-Chud side, the arrest warrant, where we actually have the facts. And mind you, there were over 100 witnesses there that day. So there were many, many people watching this, observing this, and they were looking at this and saying, okay, what happened here, and getting that into the police report. So looking at what was actually written down, it states that he escalated. The bladed stance and reaching for the gun, that's going to be escalation under a stand your ground self-defense analysis. So that's not going to look good. Also, it generally does not look good when you have non-deadly force, a punch, versus deadly force of multiple shots. Now, before anybody gets out there and goes crazy, yes, punches can sometimes be something you respond to deadly force with. For example, if someone's punching you in the head, that can be treated as deadly force, and you can respond accordingly. However, in general, for example, if you're just getting body punched or it's just a regular punch, typically a regular punch is something that you don't respond with a gun, and that's proportionality, right? So if your response is above the level where it should be, that's going to be failing a self-defense analysis. If someone punches you, typically you'd punch them back. That's a fist fight. You get in a fist fight. You're not drawing a knife or a gun or something else in that scenario. Now, the other thing is the bystanders. The bullets were ricocheting and going around, and that goes to the reasonableness of him pulling out his gun and firing multiple shots at Joshua Fox, because they're going to look at that and they're going to say, is that a reasonable use of force? Did he use more force than was necessary in this scenario? The other factor, which I think is massive, and I do think plays into the overall analysis, particularly reasonableness, is the fact that he was live streaming and that he had a documented history of confrontations. So he was live streaming to get the rage bait. That's why he exists on the internet. That's what he does. That's how he makes his money, is by getting people to rage. And because of that, you can see that when combined with the history, combined with other things he's done, as showing, hey, this guy was trying to provoke this, and this was the natural, in fact, even reasonable, expected outcome was for this type of thing.
Now, this guy, he's eloquently breaking it down, because the thing is, there's video footage of him having multiple confrontations with black people, initiating what could have turned into what it turned into. Right? So his defense is going to have a hard time in court, because they could say free speech, but you have free speech, but there's also consequences to certain things, right? Because outside of free speech, right, it could turn into something bad, right? So there's also integrity. There's also morality, right? And when you have no integrity and you're not exhibiting any morality, and you begin to open your mouth, there's some things that you just should not say, and you should know not to say. But when you're going up to people, initiating this stuff, right? Initiating these talking points, and you're being told not to, and people telling you to stop, it's going to end bad. Then you put it online, at the end, there will be an unalive chimp on the ground. You're putting this, you manifested this, you predicted that this would happen. And then it manifested itself. So that right there is an indictment in itself. That tweet that you put out on what the outcome would be, that's what ended up happening. It's just by the grace of God that man is not unalive. But that's the way it went.
Here's my judgment. Based on all of the warrants and all we have for the affidavits and all the evidence we've gotten from the actual government, I think Chud's self-defense argument is likely to lose. I also think that a jury of normal people, even conservative people in conservative Tennessee, most normal people that are not internet brained, are going to look at this and say, yeah, Chud, you went beyond what was reasonable. The force you used here was beyond reason. His other actions while live streaming also deserve jail time. You have to look at the totality of what he is doing, going into private businesses and trying to tell them what to do, to dictate what they do, to be disorderly, be disruptive. All these things deserve punishment, because people will come out and copycat these things. People will see these actions, see the virality, see the news, and they will try to be the next Johnny Somali, Chud the Builder, etc. They will do these things, absolutely. And if there is not a harsh punishment for nuisance streamers, there's going to be an infinite amount of copycats tomorrow. And part of the law is to disincentivize this behavior, to say, hey, you know what? You shouldn't be doing this. And I think Chud definitely needs some prison time in this case. The other factor I'll point in at the end here is his bail was set at $1.25 million, and he did have a absolute hilarious reaction.
This internet has turned people into robots and machines. Now, all the information that was just disseminated and just put out there by this attorney, you still have his robotic thinking, and his supporters, they're still online saying this.
Get together and get this guy out of jail for real. Like, to do it by telling the truth, do it by contributing a little bit. But man, I'm serious, bro. If y'all saw that live stream, write a statement to his lawyer and come testify against this. Like, do this lawfully. But man, come on, guys. That person should not have any victory party, bro. I will literally prioritize this over even catching the pedos, because that pissed me off, man.
Well, Alex, I mean, I think you of all people have seen how bad the justice system can fail. Like, we've seen literal chomos with like 4K evidence just walk free because of a lazy piece of garbage cop. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because they don't want to write a report. So
you think they're lazy? You think it's laziness?
Oh no, in this case, it's the opposite. It's just outright, I don't know, treason to, like, disregard the Constitution, but
do the minimum thing you need to do to keep your job.
You know how many?
So with the internet, racism is dying in a lot of different ways, and you have more people together than it was when I was a kid growing up because of the internet. More races hanging together and a lot of things. Donald Trump is uncovering just the way racism is in this country, but there's a lot of young people that are together more through hip hop, through games, through a lot of different things that they can do that we couldn't do. They have more access to each other. But you still have remnants holding on to something that's dying. And so they're going to support Chud the Builder, right or wrong, weak or strong. They're going to ride with Chud, but it's going to go to no avail. It's not going to work because there's going to be W folks that's going to put Chud away because there's a lot of W folks that don't agree with this, right? You have a lot of interracial relationships in America. You have a whole bunch of different things that's taking place here in America. And it's more of a melting pot today than it was, like I said, when I was growing up. And Chud is in trouble because he's trying 1950 tactics for 2026. He can cancel his Christmas. But y'all let me know what y'all think, man. If you made it this far in the video, hit that like button, subscribe to Street Media TV. Leave your comments in the comment section. Remember, I love y'all. Till next time. Peace.